Florida is all about great weather. You could say if you want to live and enjoy endless summer, move to this state. It'll give you just that. On top of that, it'll definitely satisfy the craving for white sand beaches, palm trees, and all the other attributes of paradise living. Looking for work? No problem, since big companies are based here offering plenty of jobs. Maybe you're into nature. Florida's the perfect place to see all kinds of amazing animals. All in all, it's no wonder the state ranks third in population among all U.S. states. 23 million people live in Florida. However, here's a surprising fact. Across Florida's huge northern territory lives just 15% of its people, while everyone else is packed into the central and southern parts of the state. Why? That's exactly what we're going to figure out today. Let's get back to the point that Florida is endless summer. White sandy beaches, palm trees, that's true. But at the same time, not really. See for yourself. That's mostly true for Central and South Florida. There's no real winter here. Temperatures rarely drop below 59 degrees Fahrenheit. And in the summer, they're almost always around 86 degrees Fahrenheit. At the same time, frost is pretty much unheard of. You can see palm trees and other tropical greenery all year long. Sounds like something perfect? Well, it actually is. Except for the rainy season that lasts from May to October. During that time, the humidity is really high, and almost every day you get heavy but short downpours. Not that it's a huge problem, but a lot of people clearly don't like it. Meanwhile, up north, summer isn't much different from the rest of Florida. Average daytime temperatures in summer also often climb above 86 degrees Fahrenheit, and the high humidity makes the air feel heavy. But if we're talking not only about summer, the difference becomes more noticeable. The climate of northern Florida is more like that of southern states, such as Georgia and Louisiana, and that means it's easier here than in the rest of Florida to notice when a new season begins. Winters are noticeably cooler here than in the rest of the state, and temperatures can drop below 32 degrees Fahrenheit. For example, take Tallahassee, the state's capital. Almost every year, there are cold nights here. The inland areas, especially the northwest, closer to Alabama and Georgia, those places are even colder. Snow doesn't happen often, but it has been documented in the past. For example, in Jacksonville in 1989. That year saw an unusually heavy snowfall that left parts of North Florida buried under drifts. In Tallahassee, snow has fallen a few times over the past decades. For instance, in 2018, when as much as 1 inch dropped from the sky. In Pensacola and other cities of Florida's northwest region, like the Panhandle, it also snows from time to time and isn't all that unusual. You know what this leads to? To the fact that lots of people choose to live in Florida, somewhere warmer, where there's a better chance of experiencing that endless summer with palm trees and white sand, and forgetting about cold and snow. That is the southern part of the state, and to a slightly lesser degree, the central part. As a result, right now the population is spread across the state very unevenly. Here's South Miami, home to 487,000 people at the moment, and Fort Lauderdale with its 190,000. In the center, there's Tampa with 414,000 people, and Orlando with its 334,000 residents. What about the north? There's Jacksonville with more than 1 million people, the record holder both for the north and for Florida overall. And the rest of the northern cities, the capital, Tallahassee, has 205,000 residents, Gainesville, 148,000 residents, Pensacola has just under 54,000 people, and of course, all this isn't just because some places are a little less comfortable to live or vacation in. While for an ordinary person, the difference in climate might not seem all that significant, then for one particular group of people, farmers, even such a small contrast between the north and the rest of the state is already a pretty serious reason to settle somewhere closer to the far south, or at least the center. In North Florida, farmers have to adapt to cooler winters, so they mostly grow cold, hardy crops: peanuts, cotton, corn, soybeans, cabbage. But orange groves and sugarcane won't really grow there. Frosts get in the way too often. In central and southern Florida, with no frost around, these crops flourish, and they've turned into the region's trademark. The warmer climate in the south lets farmers harvest for longer periods and more often than in the north. They can grow vegetables, tropical fruits, and citrus at times that are almost impossible anywhere else in the U.S. This boosts yields and makes this southern part of the state much more profitable for agribusiness. By the way, that's exactly why southern and central Florida became the real heart of the state's farming industry. Oranges and sugarcane from here are shipped not just across the U.S., but around the world. The reason South and Central Florida are seen as great places to live is largely their higher economic and social development compared to North Florida. Historically, these areas turned into key spots for tourism, trade, and finance, which fueled rapid population growth. At the same time, North Florida has maintained its more rural, traditional way of life, while the southern economy has become more diverse, giving people plenty more opportunities to advance their careers or run businesses. Let's take southern Miami-Dade County as an example. In 2023, the county's GRP was $192.8 billion. What about up north? There's Duval County, which includes the biggest northern city, Jacksonville. As of 2023, the county's GRP was $98 billion. Then we have another big northern county, Leon, which includes Tallahassee. That same year, its GRP was $21.3 billion. Add Escambia County, which includes Pensacola. In 2023, the county's GRP was $22.6 billion. As you can tell, Miami-Dade's $192.8 billion GRP is much bigger than the $141.9 billion GRP of the three top northern counties put together. And that's without even including the other non-northern counties. Take Broward County with Fort Lauderdale. Its GRP was $132.4 billion in 2023. Then there's Palm Beach County with its namesake city as the capital, which had a GRP of $106.7 billion that same year. Altogether, the three southern counties generated $431.9 billion in GRP. We can also throw in the central districts of Tampa and Orlando. The first GRP reached $198.9 billion in 2023, while the second hit $217 billion. In other words, the main cities in Florida's central region together made $415.9 billion. The outcome is disappointing for the North. Its $142 billion is smaller than both the South and the Central region made. Therefore, many people who are focused on growth and work choose to live in the developing Central and Southern parts, not the Northern part. That said, it's worth noting that the northern economy is mostly made up of traditional industries. One of the key sectors is agriculture. Here they grow soy, corn, wheat, tobacco, as well as vegetables and fruits that are suited to the region's cooler climate. While the northern districts can't compete with the south in citrus yields, farmers make up for it with a variety of crops and seasonal cycles. Another important sector is the forestry and wood processing industry. The huge forest areas in Duval, Lyon, and Escambia County supply lumber, building products, and paper goods. These industries make up a big part of rural jobs and help keep the region's economy stable. Northern Florida also plays an important role in the U.S. defense infrastructure thanks to several key military bases and facilities. For example, in the Panhandle area, there are Air Force bases, naval facilities, and training centers, which makes the region strategically significant. Jacksonville also hosts logistics and naval units of the U.S. Navy. Still, that's not really what most young people looking to grow are drawn to. Southern and Central Florida now, that's a whole different story. The first and most important thing that sets South Florida apart from the North is tourism, the state's huge industry, which right now is really thriving. Let's take Miami-Dade County along with Fort Lauderdale and Palm Beach. Here, summer never ends. The sea is warm and the beaches are pure white. Miami and its surroundings have become a global hotspot for those looking for luxury vacations, vibrant nightlife, and cultural diversity. Tourism here is cosmopolitan, attracting not only Americans, but also plenty of visitors from Latin America and Europe. People come here to soak up the sun on the famous beaches, hit upscale restaurants, take part in cultural events, or just relax on a yacht. As a result, in 2024, Miami-Dade, Fort Lauderdale, and Palm Beach counties together welcomed over 28 million visitors, or 20% of all tourists who visited Florida that year. Altogether, they spent $22 billion. More than 209,000 tourism-related jobs were also created, including hotels, different establishments, and everything else produced directly or indirectly for tourists. The economic effect came to over $31 billion, about 9% of the county's gross regional product. In Central Florida, the undeniable hotspot is Orlando and its theme parks, which have turned the city into a global capital of family fun. Massive complexes like Walt Disney World, Universal Studios, and SeaWorld draw tens of millions of visitors from around the world every year, creating a huge hospitality industry with thousands of hotels, restaurants, and entertainment venues. Tourism here is well organized and designed for multi-day trips to rides and shows, generating a stable and predictable stream of revenue for the area. This is an economy built on entertainment and imagination, where the main driving force is families' desire to have unforgettable experiences. For example, in 2024, surely for all these reasons, Orlando was visited by 75.3 million people, of which 68.8 million were domestic tourists and 6.5 million were international. At the same time, tourism that year brought in nearly $93 billion in economic impact, supporting about 30% of jobs in the region. You could say that if you decide to grow your business in Orlando, in 1 out of 3 cases, you're doing it in the tourism sector. Apart from tourism, of course, there are also other interesting areas here for modern people. South Florida, and especially Miami, has become a magnet for financial companies and wealthy investors looking for more business-friendly conditions. One of the main incentives is the lack of a state income tax, which sets Florida apart from places like New York, Connecticut, or California. This attracts not just big corporations, but also high-paid professionals who can save a lot on taxes. Moreover, after the pandemic, this trend picked up pace, as many finance companies saw they could work remotely or relocate parts of their operations to a place with a softer climate and fewer people. The financial sector in South Florida is diversified and covers several key areas. Miami's become a hub for private investments and hedge funds, which is why one of its neighborhoods got nicknamed the Hedge Fund Alley. The area is home to major investment banks like Goldman Sachs, JP Morgan Chase, and Blackstone, as well as numerous family offices. The city's also a key hub for international banking, especially when it comes to Latin American operations. While Miami leads in investment and international finance, other cities like West Palm Beach and Boca Raton are also growing as centers for fintech and asset management. Overall, this dynamic financial ecosystem, along with well-developed infrastructure, makes South Florida an attractive place to live and do business. There's one more industry that's very advanced, not in the north, but in the central region: aerospace projects and all other things related to it. Many people probably know about the Space Coast, which is home to the Kennedy Space Center and the Cape Canaveral Space Launch Complex. Rockets from the Apollo missions once rose into the sky from here, and today, private companies like SpaceX and United Launch Alliance are actively operating here. The launches, which can be watched from close up, create a unique atmosphere of technological progress, generate thousands of high-paying jobs, and attract specialists from all over the world who want to be part of the future. You could say that Central Florida, especially its eastern part, is both a magnet for space-loving tourists and a place that draws professionals looking to grow in the aerospace field. Likewise, South Florida also plays a key role in the aerospace field, but in a different way. Its strength isn't in rockets, but in aviation support. Thanks to its largest international airports like Miami International Airport, the region has become an important hub for aircraft maintenance, repair, and overhaul. It's a high-tech industry that keeps global air travel safe and reliable. Besides, there are lots of companies here specializing in engine and component repairs, as well as developing sophisticated software for aviation. This industry, while not as flashy as rocket launches, provides stable, highly skilled jobs and attracts workers from all over the world and the U.S. Do you know another area where the North falls behind the rest of Florida? In port infrastructure. Ports bring tourists, which create jobs and cash flow, and they make trade connections easier, helping the local economy grow. And there are plenty of other benefits too. In the south, there's the Port of Miami, which isn't just a big port, but one of the leading ports in the Western Hemisphere. Its key role in Florida's economy is backed up by solid numbers. Every year, it handles over 7.3 million passengers, making it a world leader in the cruise industry. This incredible passenger flow comes from servicing giants like Royal Caribbean International and Carnival Cruise Line, whose largest ships regularly set sail from here. However, the port's importance isn't just about passengers. Its cargo operations are huge too, especially for trade with Latin America and the Caribbean. Every year, over 1.2 million TEUs, or 20-foot containers, pass through the port, putting it among the biggest container ports on the U.S. East Coast. Most of this cargo is perishable goods like fresh fruits and vegetables, as well as textiles and electronics, which shows how central it is in providing everyday essentials. Meanwhile, we shouldn't forget about the jobs, since a port needs plenty of people to run it. Just imagine this one port alone supports over 334,000 jobs. Not far away, there's the Everglades port in Fort Lauderdale. In 2023, it handled 1.1 million TEUs, and in total, 7.3 million tons of cargo were shipped, received, or transshipped. Sure, there were cruise passengers, but way fewer than in Miami, 1.72 million. In the central part, there's the Port of Tampa, Florida's biggest port by total cargo. It handled 35 million tons in 2023. Among these 35 million tons were oil, fertilizers, coal, and lots of other kinds of cargo, but container traffic wasn't as strong as in neighboring ports, just a bit over 210,000. Also in 2023, the Port of Tampa saw 1.1 million cruise passengers. All in all, not bad, and pretty diverse. Containers, all sorts of cargo, and plenty of passengers. What's happening up north? There's the Port of Jacksonville. That's Florida's largest container port. In 2023, it handled 1.3 million TEU. But in terms of total cargo weight, it's not that impressive. 10.5 million tons that year. Cruise passenger traffic is even smaller. In 2023, just 190,000 passengers passed through. Besides this port, of course, there are others too, since the northern coastline's pretty decent. For example, there's a port facility in Panama City Beach. There are quite a few ports there, but in reality, none of them compare to the southern and central ports. So it turns out that up north, there's one big port, and it's on the East Coast. The West has almost no developed port infrastructure, which keeps cities from growing much and, as a result, doesn't draw in a lot of people. Moreover, South and Central Florida offer a more vibrant cultural and social life. The diverse population in Miami and other big cities has created a unique cultural scene, full of museums, theaters, concert venues, and festivals. You can find restaurants serving cuisines from all over the world, and the nightlife and entertainment never stop all year round. All this makes the region appealing to those looking not just for work, but for a full, active lifestyle. Ultimately, it's this combination of economic prospects, developed infrastructure, and rich social life that makes South and Central Florida a far more desirable place to live than in the north of the state. There's also something else that probably has a huge impact on where many people choose to live: nature. In northern Florida, vast untouched ecosystems dominate and shape the local way of life. You won't find the usual tropical landscapes here. Instead, there are endless stretches of pine forests, especially evergreen longleaf pines reaching out for hundreds of miles. The heart of these lands is the Apalachicola National Forest, covering over 630,000 acres, and the northern part of the legendary Okefenokee Swamp, where nature remains untouched. Local waterways aren't turquoise ocean bays, but blackwater rivers like the Suwannee, stained by tannins from decaying plants. This environment's rich in wildlife, which, however, makes large-scale living tricky. For example, mosquitoes can make being outdoors extremely uncomfortable. Locals constantly have to deal with alligators, as well as venomous snakes like rattlesnakes and cottonmouths, which calls for a whole different level of alertness. So nature isn't just scenery, but an active player in life, calling the shots and restricting mass housing possibilities. The region's unique karst geology with its porous limestone soils also brings its own set of challenges. There are plenty of beautiful freshwater springs here, like Weeki Wachee and Iketuknee, but the same geological features can lead to sinkholes, making construction unpredictable and risky. All of this helps keep a more rural, laid-back lifestyle alive, focused on fishing, hunting, and camping rather than mass tourism. In contrast, the nature of Central and South Florida is much more tamed and woven into urban life. Here, the ecosystem doesn't dominate, but has been altered and adjusted to meet the needs and comfort of the modern city dweller. The main standout feature is the massive engineering projects, a vast network of drainage canals built to dry out the land and make it suitable for large-scale construction. This made it possible to create densely populated cities on lands that were once impassable swamps. The beaches themselves, the region's signature feature, are the result of ongoing human work, with sand often brought in to keep them looking perfect and the shoreline reinforced to guard against erosion. Finally, in South Florida, it's much harder to find wild forests. What you mostly see are carefully maintained city parks, golf courses, and palm groves made purely for recreation. Here, the landscape doesn't just exist alongside people, it's part of their comfortable urban lifestyle. In the end, the choice between the wild, untamed nature of the North, which demands adaptation and readiness for hardships, and the comfortable, controlled environment of the South, where nature serves people, becomes yet another and a very significant factor in how the state's population is spread out. It's clear that in terms of nature and climate, North Florida can't really be made more appealing to people. If someone doesn't like the cold or wild animals, there's probably no way to win them over. But when it comes to other reasons why the North is less popular, Florida is definitely trying to fix them. For example, quite recently, Tallahassee made a contribution to the development of the North's scientific field. 40,000 square foot facility was built where startups get all the conditions they need to grow. The key feature of this center is that it has both wet labs and dry labs. Wet labs are equipped with special ventilation, plumbing, and safety systems for chemical, biological, and medical research, making them perfect for startups in biotech and pharmaceutical industry. Meanwhile, dry labs are designed for developing technologies related to programming, robotics, and electronics. Besides that, the center has over 20 modern co-working spaces and private offices, conference rooms, and workshops. This lets young companies not only access expensive equipment, but also work in an environment where they can connect with other entrepreneurs, share ideas, and get support. In a broader sense, North Florida Innovation Labs represent Tallahassee and the entire North Florida region's shift toward a more diversified, innovative economy. The site acts like a magnet for talent, helping keep local university grads in the area and turning scientific discoveries into commercially successful ventures. It's a key part of the region's strategy to move from a traditional economy to a tech and science hub. Moreover, in North Florida, there's a major industrial project located near Lake City. The site spans over 2,470 acres, and the entire area is set up for building right away. The park's close to Interstate 10 and Interstate 75, just an hour's drive from the ports and airports, and it also has its own rail connection. On top of that, all utilities are already in place: electricity, gas, water, sewage, and high-speed internet. The site's also certified by McCollum Sweeney and CSX Select Site, which shows it's ready for investors. The first resident of the park is AgroLiquid, which is building a factory over 1 acre to produce liquid fertilizers. They plan to get this project up and running in 2025, and it could help the population grow. And really, if other projects in North Florida also go as planned, the population distribution could change pretty soon.